you developing the ability to do things for yourself, and your desire to strive to do things for yourself. So when governments, and actually when any of us step in, and we mean it in the nicest way, we want to try and do it in the nicest way, but we have to also look at the alternatives. And all too often we've been too wrapped up in trying, oh, I'll help, I'll help, I'll help, without realizing that you're robbing that person from getting their own help. You're preventing them from finding out what they can accomplish themselves. And while we're going to talk in generalities, and every case has to be looked at on a specific one-by-one basis, it is safe to say that we have to be careful. Good intentions, they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the reason that a lot of these cliches are true is because they are true. Okay? And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Too often we have to walk down the same path again and again and again because we don't realize that's the only way out. I worked at a place one time and it had 6 signs showing you where to go, and it had 6 arrows, and they all pointed in the same direction. They could have just put up one sign and pointed that way, but they didn't. For whatever reason, they were highlighting all of these different things, but you had to go that way to get to any of them. Okay? So those are the kind of things, the pitfalls that we can worry about, that can come up and hit us. Now, I want to focus on this first show because I want to start at the beginning, in the divinity of Christ and its irrelevancy. Oh boy, now I know I'm going to hear about that, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at what Christ said and the things that he taught and the things that he did, it's irrelevant. The miracles were a great way to make him stand out from other people. We don't need those miracles now. We don't need those miracles. We don't need the miracles where a man can wave his hand and change water to wine or walk on water. Those are not the kind of miracles that we need now. The kind of miracles we need now are miracles that we help create, and that working with the Lord, you can see them all over the place. We live in a time of miracles. It's just true. But it's not essential to understanding the life of Christ. It's not essential to having Christ be every single thing he is and was and that we see him as. The divinity, that divinity, is irrelevant. His personal divinity is all-encompassing. That's the real message. And we have these different areas that I'm going to use from time to time in different shows to point out how things were misconstrued and mislabeled, and I don't want to say that it was done for malicious reasons, because I don't believe it was. I think what it was something that was done because we didn't know exactly what else to do. And you remember, we're moving at the speed of the slowest. We didn't have a lot of the methods that we have today, the instantaneous means of communication. Indeed, there has never been an opportunity to save the earth before now, because it's never been possible to speak to the earth at one time until now. This is that time. If this is the end time, it is the end time of the corruption that has formed, the strength of evil that has formed prior to now. Because now we have the ability to look in each other's heart and soul and see what's really there. We have the opportunity to band together on a planet basis. Now, what do we have to keep in mind? I'll go back to Christ in a little bit. What we have to keep in mind is there are still people, maybe not maybe not malevolently, but still incorrectly doing things, because we have to always keep in mind, why does it say, judge not that ye be not judged? Because you do not know all the circumstances. Only God knows all the circumstances in any man's life. Okay? Which we'll talk about, and we'll talk about profiling because I have a shocker for you on that, okay? But, so we have people that have grown up in homes with parents and without parents, in an environment that we know not. They grow up, they go through their life, and they do the things that they do based on the environment that they live in, the people that they come in contact with, how they've been treated, and the X factor, which is what? We are all chemical beings. We function based on chemicals and electronics, basically. And if the chemicals aren't right, if our genes aren't right, we don't process information the same way. So it's really, and I would say to you that someday a time will come when someone who does bad things will be able to identify that as missing this gene or this chemical, and be able to give them that and help heal them from that. A time will come when that will be possible. That's when and that's how the world will turn into the place that it could be. You see, we live, for all intents and purposes, we live in heaven. This is heaven. It can be. Now, don't take this to ridiculous ends. I'm trying to make a point that I know somebody sitting out there saying right now, well, I live in hell. Okay, well, and you might. That's why people like me, we like to think that the Lord is so great and wonderful that there is a place somewhere out there where things are fair and beautiful and kind and wonderful and even. Not boringly so, but that each man can strive to, do the things and have a fair shot. But what I'm saying to you is there's no reason, especially here in America, that we can't try to do what we can to build that opportunity here around us and among us. And what does that mean? That means the people that you sometimes hate, and we all get drawn into the emotions. Remember, we're not discounting the fact that we're human beings. We are human beings. We go through all the emotions. We have no control over some of those emotions. This is why I laugh. I said I was going to mention profiling, and I know I'm digressing here and there. That's how these revelations are going to be. Lord speaking, I'm just pouring it out, okay? Something that I want to point out to you right now, so you can all get this behind us. Everybody profiles every day. Profiling can never be eliminated. Why? Because what does profiling mean? Profiling means you look at something and you analyze it and you make a decision upon what you see and hear. And you do it with your Wheaties, you do it with the subway, you do it with the taxi cab, you do it with the people that you see, the animals that you meet, the dogs, the cats, the fish, the horses, the birds in the sky, the trees, everything. Everything your mind sees, it processes. Every single thing. Let me see who this is. One second. Sorry, that was a very good friend of mine. He was just traveling around in Amsterdam playing piano. We offer you a CD called Summer Love. And Glenn Mack is the keyboard honest. If you would ever like a copy, you can email into this address. We'll be happy to mail it to you at our expense. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make about profiling is this. We all decide how we feel about things by the information that we have inside our heads. Okay, so to talk about profiling as something that you're going to have a policeman do or not do, or what you're going to have somebody do or not do, is, I don't want to say it's foolish, but I'm going to tell you it's not possible. No matter what anybody says, no matter what laws you pass, it's never going to work, because you can't control your brain. Your brain profiles quicker than you can stop it from profiling. And that's a fact. Okay, now we only have a few minutes left here in this first Revelation show, and I wanted to just wrap up a little bit along these lines. And that is this. Divinity is something that we've made into something, supernatural. And I think man would have been much better served if he had left it as something that happens to you spiritually, inside. I can be in touch with my higher power, with our Father. I can be in touch with my divinity. That doesn't mean that I'm God. Although, look at any little creature that you've ever had the choice to kill or not. And in their life, you could be God to them. So, there's a lot of different ways you can play this stuff. The point that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to educate you folks so you can get into a one-on-one basis with God. Because our salvation of mankind, the human species, will fare much better when it accepts the fact that it has both good and evil inside it, and it needs to consciously choose which one it wants. Now, remember, we talked about environment. We talked about those chemicals. There's a lot of things that go into that. So it's sometimes those choices are quote unquote made for us by the environment that we're in, and it's so hellish and so horrible. How can we help but come out of it being the same way? How many times have you seen a young girl whose father is an alcoholic and tormented by it marry an alcoholic? Because we learn, and we're in environments, and we have limited visibility, and it's very hard sometimes to overcome some things, but it's possible. It's possible. That's my message to you. That is the whole point of all of these revelation shows, to say that you can know God, you can have Him in your personal life, and He is all you need. You need, pardon me, you need nothing else but the Lord. And if you have the Lord, all these other things will fall into their place. And that's really, really the truth. You know, I've worked at some wonderful places in my life, and I've been kind of happy. And people would say to me, well, I know why you're happy, you work here. And I have to tell them, no, I'm happy because the Lord is in my life, and working here is nice too. You see, you got to keep things in perspective. That's why in Revelations 2, we're going to focus more on the fact that making Jesus God, making any man God, excuse me, is not always the smartest thing to do. And in Jesus' case, here now, 2,000 years later, after Jesus walked the earth, he's as a dominant religious figure. He's got churches and religions and all these things set up and testimony to him. And yet, almost every single one of them has misinterpreted the things he said and did. Isn't that scary? That's frightening to me. Let me check my little clock here. I have to be good. As a matter of fact, I think it's time for me to go. We will pick this up in Revelations 2.